when I was about 8, 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I told you the story.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah,
And I know a lot of your stories because I've
exactly.
heard it a
Yeah,
million times.
yeah. Around 8 or 9. So this is 2005, 2006. I was diagnosed with something called avascular necrosis,
Okay.
and what that condition is the death and decay of the bone regarding a joint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had that condition in both of my hips and my right shoulder. And so I remember all those years ago, my mom kind of telling me, like, based off like an x-ray, the doctor kind of
Right.
noticed, like, it was much in the early stages,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was very early on. And, kind of because it wasn't a problem then, forgot about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was like 8 or 9. Throughout elementary, fine. Middle school, fine. No issues. But when I got to my sophomore year of high school
Mm-hmm.
is when I started to see the effects.
Mm-hmm.
And now there was a limp. And now I couldn't be as active as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't play basketball the way that I used to.
Right.
You know what I mean? I described it as good days and bad days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on a bad day, no physical activity, the bare minimum of just getting to where I got to go by walking. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not outside throwing around a football. I'm not, running. And it's hard when you're an athletic and somebody that's
Right,
active
yeah.
as a kid. You know what I mean?
Well,
And so,
and you grew up in New York, like they
Exactly.
be balling all the time,
Exactly.
dude. So
You
I can
know?
only imagine,
yeah.
man.
And so it was life altering,
Mm-hmm.
and just, I was in constant pain,
Mm-hmm.
limping every day, limited mobility, limited flexibility, just bad. My hip was collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
But like we do in life when it comes to traumas and sufferings and, things that are not right, we get used to it. We get comfortable. We start to build a familiarity with it where the pain is there, but it's manageable. Or so we deceive ourselves into thinking it's manageable.
No.
So now I'm out of high school, getting older, late teens, still a problem. It's just getting worse and worse by the year. Got to the point where 2018, around 2018, I forgot what that specialist called, but went to the doctor and like full blown, it was collapse.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking on a collapsed hip for years.
Dang.
And I knew. And the reason why I didn't get a hip replacement back then was because I was still growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't want to operate on a kid that's still growing.
Right, yeah.
Because you have to finish growing and then let's talk about surgery. So at this point, I'm now like 2021. I'm not really growing. That's ceased, and I still have this problem. And so went to the doctor and talked about the pros and the cons of the surgery. The cons scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then also just the stigma of being like, I'm just over 20 and we're talking about hip replacements.
Right.
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Like I call you old and a dinosaur, like
Yeah.
off camera and around town, but like this,
But it's fitting.
Like you turned into Mrs. Doubtfire for a
Listen,
hot second.
I had a friend call me iRobot.
iRobot. It's not just because of your hairline from Will Smith.
No,
like
exactly.
full on.
Exactly.
Like you are becoming like Android before you can drink.
Exactly. I mean, this whole left side is titanium. But anyway,
Right. Dang, dude.
back to the point. So now I'm older. I'm not growing anymore. So that's not the issue anymore. Still have this problem, but there's so many cons and things that created anxiety in me. There's fear around going through with that, and physically, mentally, all the things. And I was content actually just trucking through life, still suffering in silence, if you will, mitigating it. And I'll never forget, I worked a shift one time. I was at the time, a stock associate of Michael Kors, working in a warehouse, and we were doing a lot of climbing up like the Lundy's and backstocking and all of those things. And so for work, on a daily basis, I'm lifting and pushing and carrying and all that stuff. It's a lot of manual physical labor. And I was just done. I worked that shift. I was in so much pain where I'm like, you know what? I've reached my limit. I'm going to have the surgery. And Cam, after having that surgery, it was black and white.
Wow.
Night and day.
Dang.
Right? So that fear, the anxiety, the tension, the doubts and all those things, the stigma of being, you know, in your early 20s, having a hip replacement, that's only for old people. Like all of that went away when I could walk and put weight on my hip and be fine. I could run. I could be more active where I didn't have to check with my body to do different things.
Right,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? There was no limp. There was more flexibility in all of the things. There was a new strength there.
Yeah.
And so I give that, I say all of that to say that if you are a person that believes in Jesus, but there's no action, and it's because you have an issue with submitting and being vulnerable, understand that he is a great physician, right? And as a great physician, he will take care of your heart. You know, you don't have to have a wall up to divide yourself from God. Understand that he can handle your weaknesses. He can handle your pains and your sufferings and things that you've gone through, the dark areas of your heart, the dark areas of your mind that you know you can't share that with anybody else, but like give God those things. Give him your darkness, give him your sufferings, give him your toxicity, you know.
Toxicity.
Thank you.
You're good. Yeah.
Give him that.
Give him it.
Give him your vulnerabilities. Be open with him, right? Because he can handle that.
You can handle it.
And he'll take care of your heart, right? And so your heart is best handled in the hands of the great physician. And as a good shepherd like he is, he will lead you and guide you into his presence. And I promise you that if he leads you and guides you, you will not have one.
Come on.